Today is Tuesday, September 26th. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to wait a few minutes for people to pile in. I'm joined with a very special guest today who I'll introduce here shortly. If you are here and alive and well, let us know in the chat box where you're from, where you calling in from, what state. It'd be great to hear from you guys. While we're doing that, let me tell you how this meeting came to be. I met Matt earlier this year. We're in some of the same circles, mastermind groups. And the concept that Matt is going to share today is a concept that I first heard about maybe 5-6 years ago. And I didn't really understand it, and I didn't really believe it. And so I kind of put it to the side. But during this group presentation, when I heard Matt break down this concept of these tools that are hidden in plain sight in our society that a lot of people use, but not in the way that Matt will show, it really piqued my interest. And I said, you know what? Even though our audience is behavioral health centers, clinic owners, entrepreneurs, top tier people like this, I think this would be really interesting to do a webinar like this to our audience so they can see what else is out there and see different options for how to take care of their future and their retirement. So I'm going to let Matt introduce himself. We're going to get started here. Matt has a master's degree in architecture turned financial coach. I guess that is the name for Cashflow Architects. I guess that's where that comes from. He is obsessed with helping people control their money better. He's been doing this for 13 years. He is a husband and a father of 3 beautiful blue-eyed girls. And yes, with that said, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you, and excited to get started here.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. What's up, everybody? So I'll give a quick background on myself, but as we go through this, I talk really fast and I get hyper and excited about stuff. So if I say something that you want more clarity on, make a comment in the chat box. Scott will make sure that he stops me and asks the question. I don't want to do a big Q&A at the end. I'd rather have you guys ask questions as we go. So I'm just not sitting here talking to myself. You know, I'm looking at Scott's pretty face here, but I'd rather have it a little more of a dialogue rather than just a monologue. So my background, a lot of people say, how the heck did you go from architecture to the financial world? Very simple story. My grandfather, my father are both in the financial world. I didn't want to do it because I didn't think charging someone a fee to manage money that can go up and down in the market would be a very good thing. I just didn't want to get out of bed in the morning and go help people lose money in the stock market. They can go lose money without me. They don't need my help. So I went to school for architecture, but when I was 27, a really good friend of mine lost his mom, and he inherited her retirement plan. He had to pay all the taxes that were due on that retirement plan. So his mom never spent $1 from that account her entire working career, turns age 61, passes away, and her biggest asset was all pre-tax. And I watched the government take their fair share of an asset that his mom never enjoyed. And so he ended up paying more in taxes than his mom ever deferred. And I'm thinking, and at the time at 27, I was putting money into a 401k for retirement because that's what you do. It's popular. And I watched this happen. It's like, I'm putting money into an account I can't even use until I'm 60 years old. And then what? What's the exit strategy? So what I realized is you don't need a retirement plan to retire. You need money. You need cash flow. And where we decide to park our cash will determine how much money I can spend before retirement, and most importantly, even in retirement. So the purpose of today is to talk to the business owners about how to use your money over and over again before retirement years, if you want to retire. So a lot of business owners don't want to retire. I think the idea of retirement 20 years ago was a lot different than it is today. 20 years ago, people just wanted to stop punching a time clock and going to the office. They wanted to retire from that lifestyle. Well, today with the entrepreneurial world, and I get to talk to people from all over the country like this, why would I want to retire from, helping other people? So my focus isn't necessarily retirement accounts. It's how to use our money over and over again before age 60 so that I can increase my wealth, increase my happiness, and have access to capital in any economy, regardless what the stock market is doing. So in the comments, guys, let me know where y'all are from. We have a few people watching. And then Scott, can I share my screen?
Absolutely. Do I need to give you a Zoom permission here?
I don't, let me see.
Oh,
I
you're
think it
good.
might work. Look at that. Woohoo! Technology is great when it works. All right, I don't see any comments. Where are you guys from? Who am
We've
I
got
talking
some
to?
California people who are, I guess, being shy.
California, the left coast. Let's go. You guys are going to like this because the taxes are a little higher out there than they are in the rest of the country.
Phoenix.
So understanding how to get rid of them can help your ability to create wealth. I want to start off with some perspective. Okay. I want to make sure that you guys understand where you are relative to the rest of the world, because I think it's when you watch the news, you kind of get a skewed perspective. But to kind of set the tone here, and I want some feedback. This is not a tough question. Let's say this circle represents all of the wealth that you're able to accumulate. I'm going to draw a pie slice, and I want to see in the answers. Sweet. Arizona, Florida, California. Awesome. I drew a pie slice. Let's say this represents your wealth. How much of your wealth do you want off the radar screen of the IRS for income tax purposes? Leave a comment, put a number in the chat box. How much as a percentage, how much of your wealth do you want off the radar screen of the IRS for income tax purposes? 100. Now, something to be said here, there's a disclaimer because this is being recorded. This is not financial advice. This is not tax advice. This is meant for education. Before you make any financial decision, make sure you consult a financial professional or a tax professional before you do an individual transaction. This is just for educational purposes only. So now that I got that out of the way, 100%. Yeah, I want as much money off the radar screen as I can as possible. Well, okay, I'm talking to business owners. How much do you want that's liquid? How much of your assets do you want to be able to use at any time? Give me a number. 100%. When do you start off with a conversation with a financial planner about that? A financial planner sits there and will show you graphs and show you how to take risk in the market with a rate of return that they can't guarantee, but they'll charge you a fee to try and get it every single year. And there's no cash flow discussion. There's no discussion on how to actually spend your money. It's just cross your fingers and hope. That's not what we do. I want to go over this really quick because I think it's very important. What do you think it takes to be in the top 10%? So how much income does a husband and wife in America have to make more money than 90% of Americans? How much income on an annual basis? Now think about it. You have Jeff Bezos, you have Bill Gates, you have all of these millionaires and billionaires, the Koch brothers, and out in California, how many, if you've driven in Malibu, these houses are massive. How much income do you think it takes to make more than 90% of American families on an annual basis? Gerard or Michelle, give me a number. 350. Modest, yeah. I've had people say millions. And top 10%, right? What's the narrative that you hear on the news? Tax the rich. Well, how do you define rich? Income, not wealth, not your bank account, your tax return. To be in the top 10% of income earners in America, you need to make around $120,000 a year. Now think about this. If you make 120 grand a year in Oklahoma City, that's going to go a lot farther than if you live in downtown LA. That's going to go a lot farther than if you live in Miami. But on a federal level, they don't care where you live in the country. 120,000 of income, married, filing jointly, will put you in the top 10% of income earners. So what does that mean? If you make over 120,000 a year, congratulations, you're rich. You're the problem. You are what the government is going to go after. They don't go after assets. They go after income. So how you show your income will determine how much you're going to give to the IRS. Okay? 120,000 a year right now puts you in a 24% tax bracket. Now, follow me on this. When I was born, 1982, if I go back to 1980, $120,000 a year is going to be around $40,000 with inflation. So it's much, I had to earn less back then. In 1980, if I made $40,000, I would have been in a 43% tax bracket. A few years prior, I would have been in a 70% tax bracket. The highest tax ever of ordinary income, 94% on anything above $200,000 of income. 94 cents of every dollar went to the federal government in income taxes. And then if you live out in California, there's a state tax too. Right now, the state tax in California is massive. The highest rate is 13%. It's a little higher than that even. If the federal level goes back to this and you live in California, you're going to have to give them more money than you make. Okay, it's crazy. So first thing I wanted to give you is perspective. If you're making $120,000 a year and you hear people say tax the rich, remember you're saying tax me because you're the one making the income. Income determines your tax rate, not wealth. So let's talk about debt for a second. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to leave it in there. But who here hates debt? Debt is a 4-letter word, right? Who here hates debt? And Scott, because you can answer questions quicker, I'm going to ask you. Let's say you needed to borrow $10,000. Okay. You need to borrow 10 grand, and the year is 2008. Banks stop lending money. So you can't go to the bank because normally people think loans, they're thinking, go to the bank. So you come to me, and I'm a nice guy. You've known me for a little while now. I am good intentions. You say, Matt, I really need the $10,000. And I say, okay, fine. I'll lend it to you. But as a loan, there's two things that you want to know. What am I going to charge you? And when do I want to get paid back? Right? If you're going to borrow money, you want to know at what rate. And if you're going to borrow, you're going to want to know how fast you got to pay it off. So I say, look, Scott, no, I'm having a good year, dude. Here's the 10 grand. At some point in the future, I'm going to determine how much I want, when I want to get paid back. But I'm having a really good year. Just take the money. 20, 25 years from now, depending on how I'm doing then, that's when I'll determine how much I want to charge you. So don't worry about the interest rate. And by the way, I'm doing so well, I don't even care about paying me back. In 20, 25 years, I'll determine when I want to get paid back, but don't worry about it now. So would you ever take a loan without understanding the interest that you're going to have to pay and the repayment terms? Is that a good business decision?
Definitely not. No way.
Definitely not. Okay. Who here has heard of a 401k or an IRA or a 403b or a SEP IRA? Give me a hand in the chat box if anybody's watching this has one of these accounts.
Yep.
These are called what's that?
I'm just moderating. We've got some hand raises. Absolutely.
These are called qualified retirement accounts. Guys, today, 120,000 of income, I'm in a 24% tax bracket. Relatively speaking, I'm in a very small tax bracket compared to where taxes have been in the past. Who here thinks taxes are going to go up in the future? Who thinks they're going to go down in the future? Give me some comments. If you think tax rates are going to be higher in the future and you're funding one of these accounts, you are funding an account that the government controls how much you're going to pay them at a rate that you can't even calculate. By the way, at the age of 59 and a half, then you're allowed to take money out. But at the age of 72, you're required to take money out. So you can't even determine the terms of how to access the cash out of the retirement account. Not only are you postponing the use of your money, you're postponing your tax bill to a time you can't even calculate the tax rates. And if you want to maintain your lifestyle, every dollar coming out of this is considered ordinary income. In other words, it's the highest tax in the tax code. When people say tax the rich, they're saying tax income earners. Is this making sense to everybody? I want to prove it here really quick before I move on. Going to get to that in a second. If this is good, give me a thumbs up here in the chat. Michelle, thank you for that. I want to give you an example, and I want to prove to you why the financial industry loves your retirement account more than you do. I'm going to prove it. Now, look, I'm not saying retirement accounts are bad. They're not always bad. For people making over $120,000 a year who want to be successful, who want to control their assets, who don't want to lose their money to Wall Street, who don't want the government to control how to access their funds, a 401k can be very bad. This is not a blanket statement for everybody, okay? It's for people who want control over their assets, that love their family and hate paying extra taxes. Here's how the financial industry wins. In 1988, the highest tax rate was 28%. So you would have physicians and attorney groups, they would fund their retirement account, like a pension, to the tune of, just call it $1 million. So you put $1 million in. Why? Because the CPA lies to them and says, I'm going to give you a $280,000 deduction, 28% of $1 million. It's not a deduction. It's a deferral. It's a tax postponement. The tax is due the minute the money leaves the account. There is no tax savings in a qualified retirement account. It's a tax postponement. And here's how I prove it. Let's go to today, 2023. Highest marginal rate is around 37 plus Obamacare, blah, blah. Let's say it's $1 million. Let's say the account doesn't even grow. You pull out $1 million in a 40% tax bracket. You don't have to be a math genius. How much do I owe in federal income tax? This is a $120,000 mistake. And it had nothing to do with what we invested in. It had nothing to do with where the money was. Given I didn't touch the money for almost 40 years. The money sat there and I watched it grow. Didn't even grow. I'll still owe more taxes because the tax rates changed. Now, there are some people can say, well, look, Matt, if that money's going to grow and you're not going to pay any tax on the growth. Okay. Let's say there's $2 million in the account. Now, on paper, are you happy that your account went from 1 million to 2 million? Scott, like this.
Yeah, on paper, sure.
On paper, it's great. You know who else is happy? Is the financial industry. Because they're charging you a fee on what? All 2 million. Knowing that if you said, all right, I want to go pull this all out tomorrow, you would have to write a check for $800,000 to the IRS. Does it bother you, everyone watching, does it bother you that you pay fees on your retirement accounts that on money that you have to give to the IRS? The financial advisor is not even required to tell you, look, you have 2 million in that account. If you took it all out, you're going to owe a bunch of taxes. So here's what they say. They go, don't take it out. Just leave it in. It's for retirement. And then when you get to retirement, don't take out a lot. Just take out a little, because we want to keep you in a smaller tax bracket. And they get to charge a fee on the gross value. Now, if the account did really well, if that was a 4, you could do the math easily. But think about this. If Clinton got in 2016, she wanted to raise the federal rate to 50. If the account value doubled, so you have 2 million, 1 million would go to you, 1 million would go to the IRS. Your rate of return, 1 million turned into $1 million, their rate of return, they postponed 280. They got a 4x rate of return. Everybody listening, who's getting the better rate of return? You or the government? And the scary thing is, the bigger this gets, the worse it looks. And all of these business owners think they need retirement accounts because that's what the financial industry tells them. Look, the financial industry, you know how many advisors I know that aren't even good with their own money? They're getting paid to gamble with your money. Last year, the S&P dropped 20%. And you know what they said? The financial industry says, don't worry, you're in it for the long run. Until you're not. I have clients in their 60s that watch their retirement accounts go down, and they don't want to sell to go buy groceries because the account is a little smaller than it was 2 years ago. And they don't want to sell at a loss. There's no cash flow planning and financial planning. It's all asset based. How big can the account get? I'm flying through this stuff, guys. If this is valuable, Michelle, thanks for the thumbs up. Rosemary, hi. Good to have you here. If this is good stuff, let me know in the chat. Thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up or a question mark. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, let's talk about cash flow. Let's talk about cash flow. Thank you, Gerard. When it comes to cash flow, there's different ways to generate cash flow. When it comes to the IRS, there's really only 3 ways that it can be looked at. Maybe 4, but I'm going to break it down really simple. There's 3 ways the IRS looks at the way you generate cash flow. The first is ordinary income. Okay, so it's the money that you earn. It's the money that comes out of a 401k or a SEP IRA or a 403b, any sort of qualified retirement account that is going to be looked at as ordinary income. Bucket number 2 is considered growth. This basically is most after-tax assets. It's not viewed as ordinary income. It's considered growth. And then finally, we have tax exempt. There's a couple of ways to do this, and I'm going to share that. By the time we get off this call, I'm going to give you a real life example of exactly how to do this. But I got to give you perspective. So we have these 3 buckets: ordinary income, growth, tax exempt. When you go to retire, let's say you're age 62, every dollar that comes out of a ordinary or a qualified retirement plan is looked at as ordinary income. You're going to owe a federal tax. Depending on the state, I saw Florida. Florida has no state tax, which is nice. That's why you get a lot of retirees moving down there. Some cities have a local tax. You're going to pay higher Medicare premiums because you show income. And by the way, the Social Security that you're entitled to becomes taxable because you have too much income. When they say tax the rich, they don't tax the rich, they tax the income earners. Bucket 2 is I generate cash flow from an after-tax investment. I'm going to owe a capital gains tax, which historically speaking is like half of what the federal tax is. I also owe Social Security. My Medicare can get affected, blah, blah, blah. Now, here's the part that's crazy. Is the money in the market or the money in my qualified 401k, that's in the market. What does the market do? Goes up and down. Goes up and down. Okay. Tax exempt. Tax exempt is something completely different. Who on the call has a mortgage? Anybody on the call right now? Scott, you got a mortgage. What was the, in round numbers, what did you borrow? How much?
In round numbers, 200 grand.
200 grand. Did you owe any income tax on that mortgage?
No.
Everybody on the call, debt is tax-free. Elon Musk said, if you want to tax wealthy people, you would tax debt. I'm going to show you how to do this. How can I create debt? I'm going to go over that here in a second. But basically, if I am borrowing money, I don't owe any taxation. So here's the key: buy, borrow, die. And I'm going to show you how to do this so your legacy is not hurt. Because at the end of the day, if I can set this up correctly, this bucket can compound. And the cash flow generated from this bucket, let's say I have $1 million here, I would need $2 to $3 million in this bucket and $3 to $4 million in that bucket to duplicate the cash flow. Make sense so far? Everybody understands 100%? No questions? All right, I'm not getting any questions. I think we're okay. Must be that good, right? Okay. That's taxation, retirement accounts. Let's talk about where you are today in your business. How do you make your purchases? Because at the end of the day, getting rich is as equally as learning how to make money. I also want to learn how to stop losing money unnecessarily. And how I make these purchases, how I fund my business or my cars or real estate, how I buy these things will influence how much wealth and cash flow I'm able to create. So I want to give you an example of what happens when you make a purchase. When you make a purchase, I want you to know that you're going to finance everything that you buy, everything, whether you pay cash or whether you borrow. And so here's how this works. When I got out of college, I immediately borrowed money because I got a good job and I needed a better car. So I went to the bank and I borrowed money to go buy the car. And then what happened over time? I paid the car off. Now, this line represents no cash, like no growth. That's a zero line. That's a $0 amount. What happened after I pay off my car? I took money out again and I paid it off. This is why guys like Dave Ramsey say debt is bad. And he's right, because it hurts my ability to grow any sort of wealth. Because when I'm borrowing money, I'm paying an interest rate to the bank. Who determines the interest rate? Me or the bank? The bank. So what the financial guru is talking about, say, let's say I have my zero line. Let's say I just postpone the purchase of the car. Like when I got out of college, I didn't need to buy that BMW right away. So I'm going to save. Now I have enough money in my account. I don't need to go into debt. Why? Because I'm going to pay cash. So I take money from my bank account and give it to the car dealership. What happened to my bank account? I'm at the same point as I was up here. And heck, I even delayed the purchase, but I'm still right back at my zero line. Now, maybe I save enough money where I can make a purchase. I'm not at zero. But when I say you finance everything, when I spend cash, I'm losing the amount that my cash could have earned me by spending my dollar. It's called an opportunity cost. The opportunity that I'm losing, the value that I'm losing by using my cash, literally is infinite. So let me ask this question, and I need to have some answers in this one because I know there's a number of people on. Gosh, quite a few people are on. So when a bank lends money, get your keyboard ready. When a bank lends money out, are they lending their own money or are they lending someone else's? OPM. It's a good drug. Should sell that online. Rosemary is correct. Someone else's money. Scott is correct. Banks don't pay cash for things. No, there's a strategy there, but they borrow against. They are using other people's money to make massive rates of return. Go downtown Nashville, go downtown any one of those major cities, and on the top of the buildings, you're going to see a bank name somewhere. Banks know how to make money, and they're doing it by using other people's money. So then why wouldn't I put my own financial world into the same situation where I can use other people's money over and over again? Here's how that works. Let's say there's a magical place I could park my cash. Here's my zero line. Let's say there's a magical place that I can park my cash that will compound forever, guaranteed. Now, I want to go make the purchase. So a couple of years in, I say, all right, I have $100,000 to go buy that cottage or to go buy a real estate project. But I'm going to back up. I'm going to use a car example, not to confuse mortgages. So let's use a car. I have 100 grand to buy a car. If I wanted to go buy the car with cash, I can take my account to zero. And then what? Start saving again. Look what happened long term. See the difference? This is the opportunity cost, and it's massive. So by spending the cash, I've delayed the growth of that account. That's the opportunity cost. I don't want to spend cash. Instead, I borrow against my asset. Okay? I take the $100,000 out and I go make the purchase. Over time, I'm going to put money back into my account. Scott, what's the value of my account once that loan is paid off relative to when I took the money out?
Looks like it increased based on this
It
drop.
went up. It went up because I'm borrowing against versus taking from. If I were to take from the account, I would kill the forward momentum and then have to start over. Instead, I want to borrow against the account and then repay myself just as if I would refill my bank account. And what happens now is the next time I go make a purchase, this line just gets steeper and steeper, and I'm not offsetting the forward momentum of my account. And by the time I get to retirement age, I have more money in this account than I would have because I'm recapturing all of the opportunity dollars that I would have otherwise given away to some other institution. Sorry, Michelle, about the connection. We'll have a recording too. I don't want to spend my money. I want to spend other people's money. So how can you set up an account that you can borrow against? Well, there's a couple of good examples. There is a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, which if you've watched the news lately, the cost of that has gone through the roof. So let's do this. If I realize now that I can recapture money that I'm spending or that I was losing and my assets can grow, what then can I do with the money that I take out? Oops, wrong button. What if I were to go buy a rental property? Let's say I take $100,000 out of my family bank and I put that down on a property and I rent it out. This is going to generate cash flow. So instead of a 401k, what if I had a 401 cottage? With a 401k, I get a tax deferral. I'm deferring my tax bill. With a 401 cottage, I get an actual deduction, a deduction that I never have to repay. A 401k is going to give me statements. With a 401 cottage, I get keys. I get to go there. When I die, my 401k becomes taxable to my heirs. The 401 cottage gets a step up in basis, meaning there's no tax due. My 401k I watch, my 401 cottage I use. Imagine now, instead of spending money on a retirement account that the government controls, that you are postponing your tax bill, that you can't use, the government has all this red tape about access. You instead go invest in a place that gives you all of these and that generates cash flow. And what do you do with the cash flow? It goes right back into this so that you can do it over and over again. And the idea is now this is how you can build your real estate portfolio. Okay. Any questions on this so far? I want to get into this idea of what kind of account can do this, what I call the family bank. If there's any questions, just go ahead and throw them in.
Question. So the rules that the banks play by are not available to people like you and me.
What do you mean? Which rules?
Like they do the against versus the from.
Yeah.
But we can't do that with a Chase or a Wells Fargo account, but they can. How is that fair?
Yeah, no, it's funny. The way to get a good loan is to prove you don't need the money. And so they have assets tied up in what I call a family bank. They call it BOLI. And they have billions of dollars in BOLI that they use for their tier one capital. Bank of America, for example, has $25 billion in BOLI, and they lend that out over and over again. You can do the same thing if you want it. You can do hard money loans for people. How you generate that cash flow, or how you generate where the money comes from is what I'm talking about. Gerard had a question too. What about passive real estate investing? Yes. So, and you can ask Scott this, real estate really isn't that passive. They call it passive income, but it's usually pretty involved. But that's what I'm talking about is having real estate now being an asset that I can leverage before retirement that can help me in retirement. And instead of dumping money into a qualified retirement account, I want to set up a family bank so that I can go buy more and more real estate projects. Okay. So if I didn't answer your question, Gerard, go ahead and try and add to that question. I don't really know what you meant. So as we make our income, oh, finally, some good questions, guys. Kevin, thank you for that. Gerard, Rosemary, hold on a second. How do you buy real estate when you are just coming up with not a lot of money in the bank? You don't yet. So, Rosemary, I will talk about that right now, about the hierarchy and the steps of when you go get into real estate. So, to answer your question, not yet. That's okay. If you have a new vehicle, how does one transfer 401k money into it, and what are the tax consequences? Here's the challenge with a 401k. Taxes are due. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's the government's fault. Taxes are due. If you pull the money out, you got to pay your fair share. There are some ways around it, depending on your age. So that's definitely a unique question based on your circumstances. But I do have some tricks up my sleeve. I also meant hard money loans. Forgot what it was called for a second. Yeah, hard money loans are great. Dude, so where are you going to lend money from? A bank account? No. What's the rate of return on the bank account? Nothing. It's getting nothing. You get no growth, no benefits. Great questions, guys. Watch this really quick, and I think it's going to hopefully come full circle for you. So as I make income, as I'm making money, there's basically four things I can do with that dollar. I can spend it, I can save it, I can invest it, or I can give it away. Kevin, short answer is yeah, you can only put new money into a new plan. You can't roll anything pre-tax anywhere. You're gonna have to pay a tax bill. But here's the thing, Kevin. I call it ripping the Band-Aid off. I don't know anything about you or your age or anything. When do you want to pay the tax? on the value now or when it's 10 times larger? Because the next question is, what do you do with it? If it stays in the 401, you're invested in somebody else's business in the form of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And most of my clients want to have cash to invest in themselves and their own business because that's where they get the higher rate of return. So I can walk you through that thought process and show you some calculations to consider. It's not black and white, I'll tell you that. But I ripped my Band-Aid off when COVID happened. You were allowed to take money out of a 401k penalty free. And I did it. I liquidated it. So there's also ways for you to do that to avoid penalty depending on your age. So income, I got 4 things I can do with my money. Okay. Before I do any of those things, I want to put this into my own family bank. Why? Here's how a family bank works. Okay, first, I want to have guaranteed growth. More than what my bank account is paying me. Second, I want to earn dividends, which is on top of guaranteed growth. I want to use it where I can access this money less than 59 and a half. No age restriction. I don't want it to offset any benefits from the government. It can have a self-completing component where I can have somebody else pay for it if I don't have the ability to do that. It can be leveraged by banks. Banks consider this a real asset. Unlike a 401k, you try and pledge your 401k to a bank to get a loan, they're going to laugh at you because you haven't paid your taxes and the market can go down. Banks know that it's a joke, but they ain't teaching you what to do instead. Why? Because the guy that once you have 100 grand in your bank account and Chase says, why don't you come meet the private client service? That guy that makes 30 grand a year is going to go show you how the Chase can manage your retirement account, charge fees on pre-tax dollars with no exit plan. They're not going to help a business owner with a 401k as much as they would with a family bank. You want to provide a death benefit. If you've heard that word, you might know where we're going with this. And finally, I don't care, unlike a Roth IRA or a 401k, you can put as much money into this thing as you choose. There is no limitation on funding. So how does it work? You use life insurance, strategically designed life insurance. So here's the analogy that I'm going to give you with real estate. When you go buy a rental property, or just let's just say you buy a house, you're going to put 20% down and then an 80% mortgage, right? And if you know terminology here, the 20% down, whoa, that's too big. The 20% down is considered equity. The mortgage is considered debt. So we'll cover the debt red. Okay. Now, what happens every time you make a mortgage payment?
Your green goes up and your red goes down.
You got it. Basically, the green goes up and the red goes down. So you're building equity by funding the mortgage. Okay. And eventually you want to get that all green so that you can go open a home equity line of credit, which is another conversation, but it's a beautiful thing that you can use. Now your home can be your family bank, just a little too much volatility for me. So instead of the family bank going to a home, I want to show you how to use a life insurance policy. Very peculiar in how you design this though. So it is a participating, which means this insurance company is going to pay dividends. We use whole life insurance, which doesn't mean you pay premiums your whole life. It means it's just the type of policy. You can stop putting money in when you choose, but it's called whole life. You overfund it, just like you overfund your mortgage from a mutual company, which means when I buy a life insurance policy, I own the insurance company. And when the insurance company is profitable, they give me a share in those profits in the form of dividends. And it's one of the only tax-exempt dividends that exist. So just like I put money into my mortgage, I put money into my life insurance called premiums. And those premiums build equity inside of a policy. Now, instead of equity, they don't call it equity, they call it cash value. That cash value grows over time. And each year that I make premium payments, this thing gets larger, 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 until eventually I'm done and I've moved millions of dollars off the radar screen of the IRS. Because one thing I forgot to show you here, no 1099. So my family bank is a properly structured life insurance policy that gives me all of these benefits. Guaranteed growth. I earn dividends from the insurance company. It's available before the age of 59 and a half. There is no 1099. There is no 1099. It can be self-completing. It does not offset any benefits from the government. I can leverage it by banks. I can literally go to the bank and say, have 100 grand in cash value. The insurance company is going to charge me 4%. I don't want to pay them 4. I want to pay you 2. If I default, you can take the cash value. Bank says, great, guaranteed loan, 2%. There you go. Now I can play arbitrage and have the banks give me the best interest rate to borrow. Why does this make sense? Because anything I do with my money, any of these 4 things that I do with my money, before I spend, save, invest, or give it away, I want to put it into my family bank so that the death benefit gets larger for the day that I'm gone, and it increases my ability to go do any of those 4 things, whether it's spend, save, invest, or give away. If I want to go buy real estate, before I put my savings account on the 20% down, I don't want to go and put money down on the policy on a property. I want to put it in my family bank and then go to invest into real estate. I'm going really fast. We still have 10 minutes. I have real numbers to go over. If you guys want to go over numbers, leave me a comment here if you guys want to dive into some numbers with like a real example on how a policy actually works. I try to simplify this. All right. Real numbers. All right, Michelle, thanks for sticking with me, even though it's raining. Let's look at some real numbers. Okay. I don't want you guys skipping ahead. This is how I'm going to do it. Okay, real numbers, Michelle, Gerard, Kev, if you're still there. Rosemary. This is a 40-year-old, assuming that they're healthy, just normal health, male. And if it is Michelle and not Michael, then Michelle, just know women look more favorable than men because men die sooner than women, statistically speaking. So this is a 40-year-old male, and we are dumping cash into this thing to become our own family bank. So we started off with $100,000. Yes, female, love it. So your numbers look even better, depending on the age and stuff. So 40-year-old male dumps $100,000 in. Immediately, within 2 weeks of the check clearing, there's around 87,000 available in cash value. Okay. Around 87,000 available to pull right back out. So what happened? You turned 100 grand in the bank into 87,000 in cash value. Mind you, if anything were to happen to you, your family were to get $2.3 million in death benefit, income tax free. As a guy with 3 beautiful daughters, that's pretty important to me. If I'm not here, I'm not going to have my wife have a GoFundMe account. I'm taking care of my family. And I can say that with pride and call it ego. I don't even care. I'm going to take care of the family. Now, if you consider the difference of the 100,000 and you have a little bit less in cash value, part of it goes to pay the advisor for commissions. Part of it goes to the insurance company. A lot of insurance companies don't like allowing that much cash value available right away because technically they're on the hook for a big death benefit and they want to make sure they can get the rate of return in their own portfolio to satisfy that. So that's why there's a discrepancy in the first year. Second year, we take $40,000, $41,000 from your bank account, goes into the life insurance. What's the cash value increase in year 2? Scott?
Just about 40, like 39.4.
Dude, and the difference, called the difference, going to buy you a $2.4 million death benefit. So it's almost dollar for dollar cash by your second or third year. And then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going down to year 7. Each year it's going up by about 41,000. Now by year 4, it's a little bit more than that. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more now, a little bit more now. I have just replaced the bank. Why? Because this account is liquid. I can use it for whatever I want, whenever I want, no questions asked, and I took care of my family. Now, Scott and I have talked a lot about this over the past few months. What happens in year 8, Scott? What am I doing to the premium?
The premium drops.
Drops substantially. What happened to the death benefit?
It also dropped.
It does, because in order to be a life insurance contract, that extra 1,007, why it's not a clean 100, went to a term insurance rider. So that it's bumping up the death benefit so the IRS can still consider this life insurance and not an investment. Life insurance is not an investment. It's a holding place for capital that the IRS really likes. So I'm dropping the premium down from $40,000 to $10,000. Scott, when I put $10,000 in, what's my cash value growth?
Wow. Like 19,000 or 21,000?
21,000. Sorry to put you on the spot. 21,000 some change. So when we talk about rate of return, life insurance isn't an investment. It's going to hold my cash so that I can go invest. Who on the call wants to make a $10,000 deposit into their own family bank and have the 10 grand in Chase turn into $21,000 in cash value in your own family bank? No tax, no risk. Then I call the insurance company and say, hey, that 10 grand I gave you, yeah, you just turned it into 20. So thank you for that. I'd like to borrow it out because I'm going to go buy another 401 cottage down the road that I'm going to take my family and clients to. I'm going to rent it out 42 weeks a year. And the other 6 weeks a year, 8 weeks a year, I'm going to go enjoy it with my own family. This is how you control wealth. And the government loves it. If you want to know what the government wants you to do, follow what they incentivize with taxation. Business, they want you to create business because they want you to create commerce for America. Real estate, they want you to create housing. That's why they give you so many tax benefits for housing. Life insurance, yep, they want you to take care of your family. So I'm going to put money into my family bank, and then I'm going to go invest it. And by putting it into the family bank by the 8th year, I'm getting 100% rate of return, cash on cash. And I got one more point for you, and then we're going to go because I know we're running up on time. Scott, do me a favor. Write down the cash value number here in year 5.
Okay.
Please. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see I'm putting money into this account each year. Who on the call is a business owner that wants to use their money over and over and over and over and over and over again? Me. So watch this. Let's say in year 3, I say, you know what? I don't want to put money into the policy. Scott, I've been doing this. I put in 150 grand. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go buy a cottage in the mountains in Gatlinburg. Okay. Or I want to buy a condo on the beach down in Florida that I can go enjoy. So instead of putting money into the policy, maybe I'll go put money in the policy and I'm going to call the insurance company and say, hey, I want to pull out what I just gave you. Plus, I want to pull out another $100,000. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down. So year 3, see this negative 100?
Yeah.
All right. If you're with me on this call still, pay attention. This is some of the most fun part about investing. Using this to invest. What that's saying is that you put in the 41,000 premium and you say, let me borrow everything back out plus $100,000. So you've taken out 140 grand to go buy a rental property. Now, when you have a mortgage payment, Scott, people on the call, how often is your mortgage payment due? How often do you have to make a mortgage payment? We got 3 minutes. Hurry up. Write it in there. How often do you have to make a mortgage payment? Yearly. I want that. Monthly. There you go, bro. There you go. Monthly. Monthly. Absolutely. What happens if you don't make the monthly payment? They take the house or your credit goes to crap. With the insurance contract, you're just borrowing against the death benefit. Look, if you were to die with the loan outstanding, you don't get the 2.4, you get the 2.3. It's a loan that's repaid at death that doesn't show up on a tax return and doesn't show up on a credit report. So I can go buy a house, renovate it, make no debt payments until I start renting it out, and then the renters will put my money back into my family bank, not me. And it doesn't hurt my ability to get a loan, doesn't show up on a credit report, doesn't hurt my debt to income. The list goes on. There's no repayment structure. So next year, man, this condo is a lot more work than I expected. I can't sell it. So I don't want to put any money into the policy. Year 5, I sell it. Scott, what did I sell the policy or the house and I made a profit? So I put $241,465,000 into my policy. What's my cash value?
The same as before, had you not done any of that.
Is it kind of the same or exactly the same?
Exactly the same.
It's exactly the same. Why? Because my policy will grow no matter what. I'm borrowing against the asset, waited 2 years, and then dumped money back in. And now I have more money than when I had started. Because if I were to take 245 and add on what would the existing cash value, I put 241 into the policy. I got like 5 or 6 grand of growth just by not using a bank, but by using my family bank. I got growth on the deposit, and it was growing the whole time the money was outstanding in my real estate project. This is why people talk about infinite banking, which I'm not a huge fan of that term. But this is the idea. How can I set my assets up so that they grow forever off the radar screen of the IRS? And if the stock market goes down 20% like it did last year, I still have access to equity, capital. And I don't have an application that I have to go send to the insurance company to go get money out of a policy. I literally called the insurance company. Quick story, and then we'll open it up for some questions. And I wish I could see people's faces, but I took my wife to Ireland when we got married. This was 6 years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, I want extra money for the trip. So I called the insurance company and said, I want to borrow $10,000. And they said, do you want direct deposit or do you want to mail a check? I said, we're leaving for Ireland in tomorrow or 2 days from now. So direct deposit, not a check. They said, okay, you should get it within 3 to 5 business days. Click. It was a 5-minute and 8-second phone call to pull out equity from my life insurance. Mind you, they never asked for it back either. They didn't penalize me. Of course, they're supposed to put it back. Tons of conversations about loans and repaying that, but there was nothing that hurt my debt to income or my credit score. I just borrowed against the death benefit. So when I go, this is why my car license plate used to say retirement plan. because my retirement plan is the life insurance that I use before I retire. And when I do go to retire, watch this. In this example, this person has $1,000,000, $900,000. That will generate tax-exempt cash flow forever. Look at the growth here. You're getting $40,000 of growth and there was nothing going into the policy. I'll take 40 to 50 grand out of that every year for the rest of my life. No 1099, which means when I was on that Ireland trip that I mentioned, we were making sure we weren't dehydrated in one of the pubs in Dublin. There was an older couple of people next to us, and they're all from America. I'm like, what do you guys do? They said, we do tax returns at H&R Block. I said, that's cool. They go, what do you do? I go, I show people how to never use you. They go, what? She goes, I said, yeah, I want to show people how to not have to file a tax return if you don't want to. I mean, if you want to, you can, but not be required. How do you generate cash flow with no 1099? And then the lady goes, how do you do that? I said, well, let me ask you the question. What line on a 1040 tax return shows loans against life insurance? The woman from across the table leans over and goes, none of them. There isn't one. Exactly. There's no reporting to the IRS. Is your cash value ever at risk of losing? Depending on how you set it up, typically no. It's kind of similar to a bank. It has nothing to do with stock market returns. They're guaranteed by state insurance regulators. I've never heard of anyone with whole life insurance losing money in a policy. The trade-off is, are you ever going to get a home run? It's never going to do massive rate of return for you. This is not an investment. It's about how to not lose money. And so to your point, Gerard, look at what happened in Silicon Valley Bank. Those people were going to lose their butt, and the government came in and bailed them out because there are some rich, influential people in part of that bank. So if all I'm saying is that if you want control over the cash, you can replace your bank with your family bank using life insurance, and it's exposed to much less risk than like the stock market or all that. It'll be on par with different banking regulations as far as safety.
Matt, I want to jump in here.
Yes.
We'll go till 2:15. So guys, please ask your questions in the chat. But if you want to learn more, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach Matt's booking link. Actually, Matt, if you could do that in the chat. If you want to set up a one-on-one with him for him to go over your situation. So Matt's going to pop his booking link there. And one of the things that really helped me is Matt actually has a course. It's a free course online at his website, cashflowarchitects.com. And so, Matt, as soon as you have your link, pop it in the chat. I guess I want to ask a question on behalf of everyone and myself. Why are we not taught this? Is this like hidden from us on purpose? Do life insurance companies teach their agents that using these vehicles in this type of way is possible? Like, are we left in the dark on purpose, or?
I used to have a good answer for this too, but I think, thank you for sharing that. For some reason, I wouldn't copy and paste. I think that the financial industry does a very good job of confusing the financial world for the consumer. I think they do a really good job of creating jargon and acting as if Wall Street is this untouchable thing that you need a specialist to help you navigate. And I also think that for decades, Wall Street and advisors have gotten away with keeping the consumer in the dark. 20, 30 years ago, people would be proud to be able to invest in Wall Street. There was always this disconnect. And the financial industry makes a lot of money. When in the 70s, when pensions started to go away, they found Section 401k in the tax code, and advisors ran with it because their income went through the roof. The advisor gets a 30-40% increase in revenue on the fees because it's pre-taxed money that's being saved. So when you get this massive shift from pensions to self-funded retirement plans, you get the financial industry falling in love with it because they're making more money. And then the industry says that it's a fiduciary thing to do to save for retirement. Everybody on the call, you do not need a retirement plan to retire. You need money. You need cash flow. And depending on where your money sits will determine how much you actually get to spend. And as a business owner, dude, I don't know if I'm going to retire at 50 or at 75. I want options. And there's so few options with traditional planning. So when you ask, why don't we know about it? The funny thing is, it depends on the circle you run with, because a lot of people do talk about this. And when you consider if you're making over 120 grand a year, less than 10% of the consumers are doing that. Most people are broke. Most people don't need to do this. Most people need to not go buy that Prada purse, and they should start saving and learn how to invest in themselves. Right. So I think a lot of people just aren't sophisticated. They're not there. But what you're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years is more and more people talking about this because of things like social media. We're constantly pushing the envelope of what you say on social media, and the word's getting out there. Banks have 7702 plans. It's the same thing as what I'm showing you. Entrepreneurs talk about privately placed life insurance. It's just like this, and how to sell businesses inside of life insurance. You talk about the old school, J.C. Penney, Walt Disney, Elder Beerman, all of those big companies. They've all used life insurance to create their wealth. It's a piece of a big puzzle. And the more we learn about wealthy people and what they're doing, I think that's why it's going to become more popular. I think that's why you're going to hear about it more, because the financial industry doesn't really like it. Because think about it, dude. If you got everyone here is in business. Yeah. Think about charging a one-time product fee versus or one-time product charge versus an ongoing fee. Which would you rather have?
Yeah.
The fee or a one-time charge?
Yeah. It's so interesting. I never got into the stock market because my opinion always was, well, if the CEO of some big company does or says something foolish, and then the stock price goes down, and all my chips are on that table, like, why would I do that?
Yeah, it's horrible, dude. I'd rather have my own. When people say invest in yourself, it's self-education and life insurance and trusts, properly set up trusts. That's all you need. And then you just gamble on yourself for the rest of your life. And so to get my point a second ago, like a one-time charge versus an ongoing fee, you can't even buy Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office or Outlook. You have to have a subscription. Now, everybody, instead of buying a new product every 3 or 4 years, they just pay a monthly fee and they get updated with all the new products. The financial industry is one of the oldest fee models in the country. They're charging fees on accounts they know you're not going to touch because the government penalizes them to do it. If they were to do it, if they penalize that. So of course you're going to see the financial industry push back on independence. Why would a bank teach you how to not use them? Like if I go into a bank, they're not going to teach me fractional reserve lending and how to leverage other people's money. Because if I learn how to do it on myself, I wouldn't use them.
Right.
It's capitalism. You got to love it.
And to your point, there are a lot of, like, if you go on YouTube and type in, cash flow banking or infinite banking, there's lots of influencers popping up, essentially talking what you talked about today. And it's this, like you said, if we knew the system, which, tries to get us to believe and do things a certain way, this is the opposite of that. There's something else out there.
100%. And most business owners are not comfortable investing in someone else's business in the form of Wall Street, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. And if they knew the options to set up themselves and their family so the family would be taken care of and create liquidity while they're working for their business and mitigate future taxes, they're going to do that. So that's why I try and just talk about, that's my only audience, people that want to learn how to invest in themselves. And yeah, when you start talking about independence and creating your own wealth, Dave Ramsey had a video the other day that was just slamming everything I just talked about. And the guy that called in was a complete doofus. And that's why they took the call, because that guy could barely put together a couple sentences, and he's trying to defend infinite banking against Dave Ramsey. What Dave doesn't understand is that this is not an investment. And I think I need to do this, Scott, I was talking about this offline too, making a reaction video to that, because what he's saying is just junk. It's not even accurate.
Wow. And I know we kind of just scratched the surface because when you started teaching me about this, like there's so much more to even kind of what we went over today with how it's structured and PUAs and things like that.
Yeah, funding can get super creative. Yeah, absolutely.
So if someone wants to learn more, they're watching live or watching the recordings, what are the next steps?
Go to cashflowarchitects.com, join the course, and inside the course, it's absolutely free for a limited time. That we will be charging for that again, but it's free for now. Go inside the course. There's a link right there to book a 15-minute discovery call. But the entire course, there's 5 different sections. We'll teach you about debt, mortgages, retirement accounts, life insurance, using your money over and over, how banks make money, all that stuff. So go to cashflowarchitects.com, sign up for the free course, and book a call inside there.
Cool. Matt, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, definitely a new take on what we do at Beyond Marketing, but I figured this is important information and people get into business to have freedom and you got to have the right financial tools and the right knowledge to have the right freedom. So
Yeah,
thank
kudos
you.
to you for putting that together for your clients and your audience. So thanks for letting me talk. And the everyone on the call who's listening as a business owner has already had faith enough to invest in themselves this far. And this is kind of an extension of that. Now you can put your money in the same place to back up what you're trying to accomplish in your own business.
Yeah. So cashflowarchitects.com to learn more, get access to the free course. We have Matt's booking link posted below. And as well, you'll be seeing the webinar replay. So keep an eye
Okay.
on that. Matt, thank you again. Appreciate you as always. And until next time,
Thanks, brother. See you later.
take care. See ya. Bye.